What's up guys, and welcome back to another video. Today's video we're focusing on World Rugby chairman Bill Beaumont, who joined the breakdown team on their show not too long ago. It was a very interesting interview. For those who don't know what the breakdown is, it's a New Zealand rugby show, probably one of the best rugby shows out there, and they invited the chairman on the show to obviously ask him a few questions, share his thoughts on the future of rugby in general with the pandemic, international rugby, and then also asked him the tough questions about, will we see a change for the South? Will we see Pacific Island teams being focused? He was a bit grilled, if we could call it that way, by Mils Muliaina and the team. I mean, the questions they asked were straightforward and straight on, and you could see Mils was not taking any prisoners. He wanted results, and he wanted to see what was going on. And one of the big questions he asked, he says, World Rugby funded the Jaguares or Argentinian rugby in order to get into the Super Rugby. Can we see the same thing happen for the Pacific Island teams like Fiji, Samoa, or Japan, he even mentioned? And Bill actually responded saying, absolutely, there needs to be more focus in bringing these teams into Super Rugby to help develop the game globally, etc., etc. And I noticed one thing he did say was with regards to Six Nations, and he cleared that quite quickly. So he's obviously known people are giving him a little bit of flack, was with regards to Six Nations and that India tournament with Fiji and Japan joining. He pretty much kind of said he had nothing to do with that. That was the Six Nations board, etc., etc. But we all know deep down there's a good friendship between World Rugby chairman and Japan and Fiji. As we've seen, they changed their votes to go towards Bill. Why? Obviously offering promises which we're seeing be delivered in this year-end tournament. Having said that, it's good to hear that Pacific Island rugby is a focus, which it needs to be. It's got to be plain and simple. Whether it's Super Rugby with South Africa, whether it's Super Rugby with New Zealand on its own, like a Trans-Tasman Cup, like they're all talking, it's good to see that going forward. He didn't mention anything about New Zealand going on their own, and the boys didn't actually quiz him on that topic as well. So we're still a little bit in the dark on what the future is for Super Rugby as a whole, but there's definitely positive talk of World Rugby possibly funding a Pacific Island team or Japan to allow them in. Because obviously Sunwolves have been kicked out going forward and etc., etc. But now there's talk of, obviously COVID-19's thrown everything a little bit upside down, and now we're trying to build the pieces in order to formulate the tournament that's going to work. One thing's for sure, we can't allow Super Rugby to get as big as what it was, because it's going to just get boring like we've seen in the past. However, they need to find a way in order to reduce the teams, maybe take away so that if South Africa is still included. Obviously, the future talk is not, but if we are, you could easily take away 2 South African teams, easily take away 2 Australian teams or 1 Australian team and make it South Africa have 3, Australia have 3 of the top. New Zealand could stick with the 5 because they are the dominant team, and all 5 teams are doing bloody well, so rightly so. And we allow a Pacific Island team in, and we allow Japan back in to do something different. With funding, a team can do so much more in order to develop and grow with the right coaching staff, procedures, etc., etc. So all these things sound good, and I'm happy to hear that. So if not, why not increase the game and try and grow the sport in a different way so that we can see rugby getting developed globally. One of the other questions that they said was, obviously you've noticed, this is the guy asking Bill, obviously you've noticed that in the past the Southern Hemisphere was quite in support for him. Obviously this year it was different. The guys were going for Augustine to get the voting going so we could see development in the South. It's like almost like saying, what's your thoughts on that? And Mills actually asked, he said, the voting system, it's not very democratic, is it? Asked Muliaina. When can we see changes so the likes of the Pacific Island teams can have an equal vote? When can we see that change? It was a phenomenal question he asked. Bill replied in a defensive way, almost saying, part of my manifesto was that there was going to be a complete review of the governance. please note, was going to be. It didn't happen. Other governments, and it is currently taking place at the moment. I'm not involved in that, but certainly every union has the right to write into Hugh Robertson, who is an independent chairman of that group, and they will make the recommendations. Then he says, but if you think in the previous 4 years I was there, we had extra votes. We had Fiji, Samoa, who came into the council. Japan got extra votes. Of course, Japan got extra votes. They voted for you, so it made sense that you would give them that. Argentina got extra votes. Okay, fair enough. They didn't vote for him. They voted for Augustin. And he says there's an opportunity now for countries to get a seat at the table and get extra votes. But I'm not prejudging what will happen in the governance review. Let's look forward to see what happens there. So interesting stats there. Obviously, Fiji got an extra vote. Of course they did. They voted for him. Samoa was a surprise for us. Obviously, Tonga is excluded as a Pacific Island team because World Rugby just aren't helping them at the moment. So they pretty much left in the open. Another question, and obviously this was a Southern Hemisphere show, so it's Southern Hemisphere based. But what happened to Georgia? Why is Georgia being left out in the open? And we discussed this in the last night's video. What is going on? How can we see development of the game for a team like Georgia who's been fighting for Six Nations rights for God knows how long, yet in an experimental end-of-year tournament, he's favouring Fiji. And I know he says he's got nothing to do with it, which is, I think, absolute bull. Of course he's got something to do with it. He's the head. Yes, the Six Nations have their own board and will call the things, but tell me World Rugby doesn't oversee it. Come on. And the fact that Fiji and Japan are automatically included, these two teams who got extra votes, these two teams who voted for Bill, why not Georgia? Why were they left out? They've done so much in order to prove a point, in order to be included in a tournament like this. Why are they being left out? And I'll leave it at that. Let me know your thoughts in the comment section down below. I thought this was a fantastic interview. I'll leave the link down in the comments or in the description where you guys can go watch that clip of that interview. Obviously, I'd love to insert it in the video, but for copyright reasons, I will not. But it was a phenomenal video, and I had to do a review on it because I just thought Mils and the breakdown team nailed it 100%. So credit to them and to the New Zealand show. By far one of the best rugby shows out there. Because I will cover it all. So make sure you don't go anywhere. Hit that subscribe and give this video a thumbs up, and I'll see you soon for another one. Thanks so much for watching. Stay safe and never give up.